They came to marry her. They came with gold, with flowers, with dreams of a quiet life. But on her farm in Laporte, none of them ever left alive. They called her Belle Gunness, the widow with a soft voice and cold eyes, a woman who promised love and delivered death. In 1900s Indiana, she looked like any other lonely widow. Black dress, simple home, a mother of 3 who worked the land with her own hands. But inside that house, something dark was growing. Her first husband died suddenly. A heart condition, they said. She cried at his funeral, pale and trembling, her black veil shaking in the wind. But behind that veil, she was smiling. Weeks later, she collected the life insurance, thousands of dollars, enough to buy a farm, enough to start again. Her second husband died too. A freak accident, they claimed. A heavy grinder fell from a shelf and crushed his skull. No one questioned it. No one ever did. She buried him behind the barn, then went to town the next morning and withdrew the insurance money. Her children watched from the window. She didn't cry. She never did. With her new wealth, Belle bought a large farmhouse outside Laporte, acres of soil, a red barn, and silence for miles. Neighbors saw her working in the fields, smiling to herself. They thought she was rebuilding her life. But she wasn't rebuilding. She was preparing. Belle had a new idea. Something more profitable than farming, more exciting than marriage. She began writing letters. Personal ads, the 1900s version of Love Online. Comely widow, owns large farm in Indiana, wishes to make acquaintance of gentlemen with means. Object, matrimony. The words were gentle, sweet, safe. Men from across America answered. Lonely, hopeful men. Men who believed they'd found someone to love them back. She wrote back. Dozens of letters, sometimes hundreds. Each one filled with charm and care. She asked about their families, their dreams, their finances. And when she felt their trust grow deep enough, she wrote the same line every time. Bring all your money. We will start our new life together. Tell no one you are coming. They came to her door one by one. From Chicago, from Wisconsin, from Minnesota. Each man arrived with a suitcase and a heart full of hope. Belle met them with stew and a smile. She told the neighbors each one was her fiancé, but none of them ever returned. At night, smoke rose from her chimney, thick, bitter, heavy. Sometimes neighbors said they heard digging. Other nights, pigs squealing louder than usual. But no one dared ask questions. After all, she was a widow, and widows deserved peace. Days later, she'd be in town again, shopping, smiling, sending more letters, one after another, each man disappearing like the last. Her farm became a place of whispers, the ground soft, the air heavy. Dogs barked at her fields at night, but she only hushed them with a lantern in hand. No one in Laporte knew that beneath the soil, beneath the pig pen, she was burying her future, one suitor at a time. Belle Gunness had found the perfect disguise. A grieving widow, a mother, a kind face no one would ever suspect, but every smile hid a secret. Every handshake was a trap. And every man who crossed her gate would never see the sunrise again. And this was only the beginning, because soon the letters would lead to fire, bones, and a secret graveyard no one could believe. Like, share, and subscribe, because in the next you'll see how Belle's letters of love and lies became a trail of death. The letters were sweet, folded with care, scented with promise. But for every man who read them, they were the beginning of his end. Belle Gunness knew her words could kill, not with poison, not with a gun, but with hope. She sat by the oil lamp each night, writing slowly, her pen scratching against paper. Her handwriting was neat, elegant, deceptively gentle. Dearest, she wrote, I am so lonely on this big farm. I long for a strong man to share my burdens. Every letter she sent reached a man starving for affection, farmers, widowers, immigrants chasing a dream. They saw in her what they wanted to believe, a home, a wife, a fresh start, and she made them believe it all. She told them she owned acres of land, that she had money but no one to share it with, that she wanted marriage soon. Then came the final line, always the same, sell everything. Bring all your savings. We will be married and begin our new life together. Tell no one you are coming. One by one, men across the Midwest obeyed. They packed their trunks, withdrew their money, said goodbye to families who would never see them again. The first man was John Moe, a bachelor from Minnesota. He arrived with over $1,000 in cash, his entire fortune. He told his brother he was off to marry a wealthy widow in Indiana. That was the last anyone heard of him. The second was George Anderson from Missouri. He spent a single night at Belle's farmhouse. At midnight he woke to find her standing beside his bed, not with affection, but with a candle in one hand and a strange look in her eyes. He fled into the night, barefoot and terrified. He would become the only man to escape Belle Gunness alive. The rest never left. Neighbors began to notice the pattern. New men arriving with luggage, then vanishing without a trace. Belle always had an explanation. They left for Chicago, she'd say. Business matters, you know. And she'd laugh softly, her apron dusted with flour, her hands smelling of smoke. No one questioned her. Why would they? She was polite, generous, the kind of woman who brought pies to church gatherings and donated to the poor. But beneath her kitchen floor, the dirt was disturbed, always freshly packed, always damp. Each victim followed the same routine: dinner, whiskey, a promise of marriage. Then silence. Belle was efficient. She'd hit them with a meat cleaver or chloroform them in their sleep. Their bodies dragged out to the barn, their cash stashed away in her trunk, and their remains buried in the garden or fed to her pigs. The soil of LaPorte was drinking blood, and Belle's fortune was growing faster than ever. Soon her letters became more confident, more daring. She no longer waited for answers. She demanded them. "You must come at once, my dear," she wrote to one suitor. "Others are interested in me. Bring your money before it is too late." Each new man thought he was the lucky one, the chosen one, the one who'd finally make her happy, but in truth, he was just another meal for her pigs. Belle Gunness was no longer a grieving widow. She was a collector. Of money, of secrets, of bones. By 1907, her farm had become a silent graveyard, a place where love letters turned to eulogies. And the woman who signed her name with hearts and promises had become a legend of death, yet no one suspected her. Not yet, not until one man came looking for his missing brother. And when he did, the first crack appeared in Belle's perfect disguise. And that's where everything begins to unravel. Because the man who went searching for answers would uncover something even the police couldn't believe. Like, share and subscribe, and in the next you'll see how the farm of no return revealed what Belle was hiding beneath her soil. At night the smoke rose higher than ever. The neighbors said it smelled like burning leather. But that wasn't leather. That was what remained of the men who never left her farm. LaPorte was quiet, too quiet. The Gunness farm stood like a shadow at the edge of town. Wide fields, a red barn, and a house that always smelled of iron and ash. Belle was still writing letters, still smiling at the postman, still pretending to be lonely. But her farm had become a place no one wanted to visit. The animals grew fat. The pigs squealed through the night, and the soil behind the barn was always freshly turned. Children whispered stories about her. That she fed strangers to her hogs, that she buried bones beneath her apple trees. But grown men laughed it off, because no one in LaPorte wanted to believe the rumors. After all, she was a widow, a mother, a woman who brought pies to church and paid her bills on time. But monsters often hide in plain sight. In the spring of 1907, a man named Asl Helgelian came to LaPorte. He was looking for his brother Andrew, one of Belle's suitors. Andrew had sold his land in South Dakota and left with nearly $3,000 in cash. The last letter he sent home said, "I have found the one. We will marry soon. Her name is Belle Gunness." And then nothing. Asl wrote letters to Belle. She told him Andrew had left for Chicago, that she didn't know where he went, that maybe he'd changed his mind. But Asl didn't believe her. He could feel it. Something wasn't right. He went to the sheriff. He told him about the missing money, the unanswered letters, the silence. But the sheriff only shrugged. Belle Gunness was a respected woman, he said. Surely there was a mistake, so Asl left. For now. Meanwhile, Belle was preparing again. Another man. Another letter. Another night of smoke. She worked the farm like any other day, feeding pigs, chopping wood, carrying buckets. But every so often she'd stop, stare at the horizon, listen for footsteps, as if she could hear the ghosts of the men buried beneath her feet. Her hired hand, Ray Lampier, noticed it too. He was obsessed with her, in love, jealous, desperate for her attention. He'd seen the men arrive. He'd seen them disappear. But he said nothing, because Belle Gunness could make any man obey her. Then came the fire. The night that changed everything, April 28th, 1908. Flames tore through the Gunness farmhouse just before dawn. Neighbors rushed to help, but it was too late. The house burned fast, too fast. When the fire finally died, all that remained were ashes and bones. Inside, they found the bodies of Belle's 3 children. And beside them, a woman's body, headless, burned beyond recognition. People gasped. They said the widow of Laporte was dead, that her sins had finally caught up to her. But Asle Helgelien didn't believe that either. He returned to Laporte the moment he heard the news. And this time he brought shovels. He went straight to the farm. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and death, the ground still wet from the fire hoses. He found Ray Lampier wandering nearby, trembling, muttering that the fire wasn't his fault. Asle ignored him. He walked to the pig pen, that cursed piece of land behind the barn, and he started to dig. The first shovel hit something soft, then something harder. The smell hit next, sweet, rotten, final. When they pulled it out, they found a man's body, his hands missing, his head wrapped in a burlap sack. The sheriff was called immediately. By nightfall, they found 3 more bodies. By the end of the week, they had uncovered 11, but this was only the beginning, because what lay beneath that farm was darker than anything Laporte had ever seen. The newspapers called it the Farm of Death. Reporters came from across the country. People gathered at the fences to stare at the place where love letters had become graves. And Belle Gunness, the sweet widow with the kind eyes, had vanished like smoke. The fire didn't end her story. It only began the legend, because what the police found next, buried deeper, would reveal the true horror of Belle Gunness. Like, share, and subscribe, and in the next, we'll uncover the fire that revealed everything. The fire was supposed to end everything, supposed to burn her secrets to ash. But the flames didn't tell the whole story. They only revealed the beginning of a nightmare. April 28th, 1908. The Gunness farmhouse was a wall of flames. Neighbors watched helplessly as smoke twisted into the sky. Belle's children were inside, trapped, and beside them, the charred remains of a woman, headless, her face unrecognizable. Everyone believed it was Belle, the widow of Laporte, the killer who had lured men to their deaths with sweet letters. Dead at last, but some didn't believe it. Asle Helgelien, the man searching for his missing brother, refused to accept it. He had a gut feeling. Something about the scene didn't add up. The body was too small, too frail. And why would Belle leave her fortune behind? He returned with shovels and a sense of determination. Because what you don't see, you often find buried. The police were already digging, under the barn, behind the pig pen, beneath the burned floorboards, and what they found made the town of Laporte shiver. Bones, human bones, scattered, stacked, hidden beneath layers of dirt. Some burned, some not. Men, women, children. One man had been buried with his savings, all gone. Another had marks on his skull that told a story of betrayal and murder. The newspaper headlines screamed, "Widow's Farm, a graveyard of 40 men." People couldn't believe it. How could one woman in a small Indiana town kill so many and vanish without a trace? And vanish she did, the body in the burned house. It wasn't Belle. DNA wasn't tested back then, but witnesses later described the remains as smaller, weaker, not fitting Belle's tall, strong frame. Belle had faked her death. She had slipped away while the town mourned her supposed demise. And the country would never forget the fire because it exposed only a fraction of her crimes. Ray Lampier, her devoted and obsessed farmhand, was arrested. He confessed, partly. He told the police about the bodies, the letters, the money. But he swore Belle had escaped. He even claimed she threatened him. The police didn't believe him at first, but then they realized he was telling the truth. Belle Gunness had disappeared into the night. No one saw her leave. No one saw her again. For years, the farm became a place of horror. Visitors came from towns far and wide. They wanted to see where love had turned to death. They took souvenirs, bones, locks of hair, old letters. The soil was never the same. The pigs that remained grew unusually fat and wild. The fire hadn't just burned the house. It had revealed a pattern, a legacy of deception, a warning that monsters sometimes smile at you from the breakfast table. The press ran story after story. Widow killed dozens for fortune. Indiana's female monster. The letters of death. Yet despite all this, Belle remained free. Some said she went to Chicago. Some claimed she fled to South America. No one knew, and that uncertainty terrified people almost as much as her crimes. By now, the nation was obsessed. Detectives, bounty hunters, journalists all tried to track her. Some claimed sightings. A tall woman buying stamps, a woman in black at a train station. But every lead ended in smoke. Belle Gunness had become a ghost. Not just a murderer, but a legend. And this was only part of the story. Because even after the fire, the ground beneath the Gunness farm had more secrets to reveal. Like, share, and subscribe. And in the next, you'll discover the graveyard beneath the farm, where her true horror was finally unearthed. The fire burned the house. The smoke vanished into the sky. But beneath the Gunness farm, the earth held secrets no flames could destroy. The neighbors whispered about it for years. Strange smells from the barn, freshly turned soil in places that shouldn't have been dug, pigs that were unusually large, aggressive, and always hungry. Belle Gunness had vanished. But her farm remained. Detectives and bounty hunters combed the property. Every inch of ground, every corner of the barn, every field she once claimed as home. They found human bones, layer after layer, buried beneath the pig pen, buried beneath flower beds, buried beneath the farmhouse floorboards that survived the fire. One by one, the remains were unearthed. Men, women, children. Each skeleton told a story. The man who came to marry her from South Dakota, stripped of gold, buried in the orchard. The Norwegian bachelor, his fingers cut to take a ring he'd brought as a gift. 3 children, Belle's own, possibly not, buried in the floor of the house. By the time the dig was complete, the total count shocked the nation. At least 40 victims. Newspapers called it the most horrifying female killing spree in American history. And yet, there were still questions. Where was Belle? How had she escaped the fire? Had she planned the fire to cover her tracks? Ray Lamphere, her devoted farmhand and secret accomplice, told authorities what he knew. He said Belle had a method, a careful, calculated system that turned every letter, every meeting, every promise into profit. She killed men who brought money. She collected their wealth. She buried their bodies. She made the pigs eat what she could not store. Lamphere swore that Belle had even plotted to kill him. But he had grown clever, or lucky. He survived. Still, he couldn't reveal everything. Some details were too horrifying even for him to recount. The farm became a spectacle. Curious townspeople, journalists, and tourists came to see the site. They dug in the earth, brushing away soil to reveal what lay beneath. Each grave was a reminder that the smiling widow could be the most dangerous creature of all. The detectives photographed the remains, wrote reports. The morgue was overwhelmed, and yet even with all the bodies uncovered, the biggest question remained unanswered. Where was Belle Gunness? Some claimed she had fled to Chicago. Others said she traveled to South America. Some even suggested she took on a new identity and lived quietly among unsuspecting neighbors. But one thing was certain. Wherever she went, she had left a legacy of fear. A farm that became a graveyard, letters that promised love and delivered death, and a trail of bodies that would haunt the nation forever. The sheriff, the detectives, and Asle Helgelian, the man searching for his missing brother, tried to piece it together. Each bone, each clue, each letter, they realized something terrifying. Belle had planned this for years. She was intelligent, patient, and utterly ruthless. She had manipulated men across the country, tricked them with charm, and then turned their hope into their end. By 1910, the story of Belle Gunness was known across the United States. Books were written, newspaper articles published, and her farm, now cleared of most of the bodies, remained a place people whispered about in fear. The legend of Belle Gunness endured, not as a mere criminal, but as a warning, a reminder that evil can wear a kind face, and beneath the soil, the earth kept its secrets. Because some things are too dark to ever be fully unearthed. Belle Gunness had vanished, but her story was far from over. In the next and final, we'll explore the woman who vanished, the mystery of her disappearance, and the chilling theories that still haunt history. Like, share, and subscribe, because what happened next may shock you even more. The fire was over. The graves were uncovered, the bodies counted, and yet Belle Gunness was nowhere to be found. The country thought she was dead. A charred, headless corpse lay in the ruins of her farmhouse. The papers declared the widow of Laporte gone. Justice served, but whispers began almost immediately. The body didn't match Belle's height. Her hair was shorter. The build was smaller. The experts scratched their heads. Something didn't add up. Belle had vanished. Some said she escaped in the chaos of the fire. Some said she fled in a horse-drawn carriage, covered in soot and rags, blending into the night. Others believed she boarded a train to Chicago, carrying with her the fortune she had stolen from her victims. And some claimed she disappeared entirely from the United States. A ghost crossing borders, untouchable. Ray Lamphere, the farmhand, told chilling tales. He said Belle had planned the fire in advance. The headless body, a decoy, the flames, a perfect cover for her escape. He claimed she had even left instructions. If the fire comes, no one must suspect me. Let the bodies tell the story. Lamphere was arrested for his role in helping her hide evidence. He served a short prison sentence, but even he didn't know where she went. Reports of Belle sightings emerged over the years. A woman in Chicago living as a widow, wealthy beyond measure. A mysterious landowner in South America. A European traveler passing through New York with the same dark hair and sharp eyes. No one could confirm them. But each story added to her legend. The newspapers had a field day. Belle Gunness alive, Indiana's female monster still at large. Letters of love, graves of men, the widow who escaped death. She had become more than a criminal. She was now a myth. What made Belle Gunness terrifying wasn't just the murders. It was her mind, her patience, her ability to manipulate love, greed, and trust. She didn't just kill for money. She turned the simple human desire for companionship into her most powerful weapon. She had exploited loneliness with surgical precision, and she had vanished without a trace. Even today, historians and true crime enthusiasts debate her fate. Some think she died quietly in the 1920s, old and unnoticed. Some believe she lived decades longer, never caught, always moving, always hiding. Others claim she may have returned to Laporte in secret, laughing at the chaos she left behind. No records confirm any of it. Belle Gunness became a cautionary tale, a warning that evil can hide behind a widow's veil, that charm can mask cruelty, that the people we trust most can sometimes be monsters. Her farm remains famous in history books, her letters, her victims, her methods, all studied in fear. And yet the woman herself remains a ghost. The fire, the graves, the money, all pieces of a puzzle that may never be solved. And that's the final piece of the chilling story of Belle Gunness, the widow who promised love, delivered death, and vanished without a trace. If this story fascinated you, hit like, share, and subscribe for more dark, true crime mysteries that will keep you awake at night.